Welcome into Extreme Talk, presented by Complete. James Shannon, bring it up just a second. And there we are. Welcome in, James Shannon, flying solo today. You'll see the computer here for the broadcast, and then off to my side, there's some soundboards and everything. We're just flying solo today. We're making it happen, and give producer Audrey and director Jack the day off. So there you go. Got a jam-packed show for you today. We're going to talk about the Jamboree at Christian Community that happened over the last couple days. And you might ask, well, why aren't we going to talk about the FCA one? I will bring it up. I wasn't there. I did have a person there that mentioned some things, so I will talk about those. But whole lot to get to today. Of course, you saw our guests. One of them is going to be Coach Daniel Smith from East Central Homeschool, and then and that'll be here in just a minute. And then at 5 o'clock, we will bring on Coach Bob Atteka from Grace Baptist Academy down in Chattanooga. But right off the bat, I want to talk about our sponsors. Of course, you can see them here in the corner of the screen. Really thankful for them. And like I said, specifically Complete Real Estate and Complete Financial Wealth Management, and then also Fairlife Core Power and Brent Atkinson with the Rycard Realty, the Realty Group. So really excited. And of course, at the end of the show, the broadcasts start this Friday. Games start this Friday, and we do have a new sponsor for the game broadcast. So I will bring that up near the end of the show. But right now, let's jump straight into it, and let's get Coach Daniel Smith on the phone. He is from East Central Homeschool down in Alabama, and I believe it's Pinson, Alabama. Welcome on. I want to welcome in Coach Daniel Smith from East Central Homeschool. Coach, how are you?
Doing well, James. How are you?
Hey, doing good, and I appreciate you taking the time to talk and kind of talk about the season coming up. For those that aren't familiar with yourself, of course, some people might know Coach Mike Long as the former head coach of East Central. You just stepped in this season. For those that aren't familiar, kind of get us familiar with yourself, and then talk about your program a little bit.
Yes, sir. I came with East Central. This is our fourth year football. I started with our first year back. Coach Long did a great job. East Central where it's at. All the women's basketball standing, and he's a big. But our football program and our first season, two sons, and I've been involved in different levels.
Breaking up just a little bit, Coach.
Okay, is this better?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so started 4 years ago. This is our fourth season. Like I said, 16 players first year, varsity. It was go our first season all the way, and it was like most of the 8-man teams starting up, it takes a little while to build it up. So went from 16 players to 19 to 41, and we're at 44. So looking forward to hopefully being able to compete at a little higher level.
That's awesome. Now, Coach, you go into a game Friday night with Evangel Christian, and if my memory serves me right, it's not been easy for you guys so far. The last couple years, you've taken your lumps against, of course, both years. They won the national championship, competed for a state last year. What do you tell your guys going into a game like that? Just one that is going to be tough, more so than maybe some others.
Yeah, well, the first thing I did was thank Coach Long for keeping me humble with our first game. I told Coach Smith when I called him after I got the job that I appreciate Coach Long making sure I go 0-1 before I get started. But no, we're going to go in and we expect to compete. We're going to go in trying to win every game. We tell our guys they know what we're up against with Evangel, but we've got the numbers. We've got a conditioning program now, so we expect to go in and compete. Every year's a new year. We've got 8 seniors, where when we started, that's more than we've had total the first 3 years. So these guys are hungry and ready to go.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's important with a game like this is that, you brought it up. you don't you don't sugarcoat it for your guys. You let them know that this is exactly what we have going on, and you give them a picture of reality, if you will, and you tell them, hey, this is not going to be easy. You guys know what we're going into. All we can do is go in and do our best. Am I off on that, or?
No, you're right. No, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to go in and do something. Whether it's play with them for a half, win the game, everything. We're going to take something away no matter what. Because it's like I said, it's very early. We got a week off after, and then our season really gets started because they're in our conference, and if we take care of business, we can play them again.
Now here's a chance. Here's the opportunity that every coach that comes on this show loves. I need you to hype up some of your guys. I need you to promote some of your guys that maybe people aren't familiar with. The guys that are the core of East Central Homeschool Patriots football.
Oh man, we got some great players. So our seniors that I have, we're going to have a media day next Tuesday. So I'll start with those guys. Tony Pafumi is a
Oh,
senior for us.
don't throw off the whole flow of my interview, Coach. Come
I'm
on.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm
Well,
just kidding.
we got some guys. Tony Pafumi and Evan Vincent. Evan was all conference for us last year. Receiver, 6'4", 190. I mean, just a great athlete. Tony can do everything. He's a kicker. He's a kick returner, receiver, defensive back. He's they're all just awesome competitors. Luke Nelson's another player for us that plays linebacker, running back, can do everything. Our quarterbacks are getting older. We got two sophomore quarterbacks that have played a lot of football now. As JV players, they started on varsity last year, so played a lot of football at the varsity level. So we're gonna be solid.
How important was that for y'all to be able to get a good I like to use the term farm system for like a JV and middle school program, but how important was that for y'all to kind of get them started early on so that, and you knew you were going to take your lumps, but down the road, you've already built up a base of guys that have experience, just game time experience, and it's not, necessarily garbage time. It's against other starters.
That's true. Our junior class is really it's a large class. It was the largest class when we started the program. They were eighth graders, and some of those guys played some varsity minutes, even as an eighth grader. And they were all away games. I mean, it was that first year was we still laugh about it with some of the guys that graduated or the older guys we have now. I mean, it was the foundation. So those juniors are going to have a lot to say too about this year and next year. We're up to about 12, 13 kids that have played a lot of football, and they're excited. They're ready to go.
Now you bring up the media day that's happening on Tuesday, and we're going to talk about it on the show a little bit later on and kind of expound upon it a little bit. But from your perspective, going into Tuesday with the media day, and just with it being the first ever, what are some of the things you're wanting to get out of it, and what are some of the things maybe that you want to put into it, and maybe tell everybody?
Just promote 8-man football in the state. I watched some of your other interviews where of course, Alabama with the AISA going to 8-man, and when you hear people talk about 8-man football, they're wondering when we're going to move to the next level. But it seems like they're moving to us. It's
Oh yeah.
exciting. You can't tell the difference. It's blocking and tackling. It's the same football on the smaller field. So it's really no different.
Yeah, no, and that's the whole thing, and our whole slogan, 8 = 11. It's the same thing. 3 miles. I was actually at a jamboree last night with another coach that had been an 11-man coach for years, and his team is now playing 8-man. He was there just kind of watching some football, and he was kind of new to the game of 8-man, and that was one of his first comments is, man, coming out here and watching, and he was taking videos and sending it to people back, back with the team and back at home base. He was sending videos, and he's saying, look, I've been telling them all along, it's the same thing, just fewer people. And everybody in the 8-man world knows that, and I think some people in the 11-man world know that, but it's a matter of actually getting it through to them that, hey, football is football. It's just fewer guys on the field because of smaller rosters, because of smaller schools for that have gotten that way for whatever reason.
Cool, exactly, and it gives guys an opportunity to play in these smaller areas. I mean, we know that where it came from out in Texas and Oklahoma, but these small areas in the state of Alabama now have an opportunity to play football where before they may have shut it down.
Now you're in one of the toughest conferences, in my opinion, one of the toughest conferences. You've got you've got the three teams: Evangel, Ezekiel, Lighthouse Homeschool.
Mhm.
There's also Southern Christian in your conference, and hopefully some down the road, maybe you guys could grow a little bit. But in my opinion, one of the toughest conferences across the board. How do you approach that as a coach? I know, it's the next game, and it's about not looking too far ahead. But how do you approach and kind of game plan for and mentally prepare for? Listen, we're going into some really tough. Your non-conference games maybe a little bit easier, but your conference games are so tough. How do you mentally prepare for that?
Well, the guys know, the players know. I mean, it's a battle every year. Of course, Southern Christian and us have been on the bottom end of it, since we came into the league. But our job is to grow and compete. Lighthouse is our closest rival. We've had some good games, but we've just never been able to close the deal. We've won some JV games now, so we're progressing. But there's no way to sugarcoat it. We got to condition. It's one in the off season, and this year we've actually had a great conditioning program. We have an unbelievable strength coach that has not only a great strength coach, but a godly man that has really helped our team um, grow together. Because one of the things, the battles that homeschool groups have is that camaraderie of being together every day. We don't have that like some others, so we have to overcome it in other ways, and that's how we do it.
Now your travel doesn't seem like it's terrible this year. You got a couple games that you got to go on the road for, but quite a few home games, and maybe from some teams that you would have to travel to a little bit. How much of an advantage is that to be able to have a good, solid set of home games where you can pack out you can pack out where your home field and really create that environment of that hometown, that home field advantage.
Exactly. Our schedule sets up pretty nice. I mean, Evangel first is not great, but I mean, you got to play them anyway. So let's play them early.
Well, at least you have to
See
go. At least
exactly
you
what
have to go to them though, and that
exactly,
and
and it's
that way
just
you don't
across
have
town.
them and then you don't have them infiltrating your place and
That's right.
packing it out and making that a home game for them. So go there, get that over with, and then you get
Yeah,
go on the road to North River, and then come home and just kind of grow the team a little bit.
yeah. It's a strange schedule. We go on the road, and we have three at home, and then we have a three in the middle of the season on the road, and then we come back home to finish up. And I think Meadowview's our last game. But no, schedule sets up pretty nice. We get Evangel, then we get a week off, so we get to see exactly where we are when you play a team like that. So we're going to take what we can out of it, win or lose. We're going to see exactly where we stack up. And have 2 weeks to get ready for North River.
Is there anybody that let's say today one of the teams dropped off your schedule and this other team had an open date and it matched up perfectly? You guys could play. Is there any team that you go, you know what? I really would like to take a crack at them. It doesn't even have to be in the state of Alabama, but even if it is, who's that team that you're like, man, I really want to crack at them?
Oh, man, that's a good one. Honestly, I do not know. I'm so glad we have the Tabernacle game now. They beat us last year in a great opener. Can't wait to play those guys again. Um, Man, I'm going to get back to you on that one.
Oh man, I got him stumped. I got
Yeah,
him.
you do.
I
Who
got
would you
him.
want to see? Who would you come watch us play?
I mean, right off the top of my head, from the state of Tennessee, um, I think a team I think like a Lighthouse Christian out of Antioch. They've had a couple tough years. They've got some bright spots. I don't want to spoil my talking about the Jamboree too much, but I mean, there's a couple teams that I think would match up nicely. Maybe and I might be overlooking a couple. Are there any teams from Georgia that you guys have looked at, or Mississippi that you've said, hey, travel will be a little bit easier?
Well, there was one team that I spoke. My pastor, his son, is actually the worship leader at Sherwood,
Oh,
where
okay.
they
Yeah.
make the movies, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So they have Sherwood Academy,
Right.
and I thought, we're better than go where they film Facing the Giants to play a game. So we're actually maybe looking at that in a year or two to go play those guys and have maybe spend the night and have a worship session and something awesome for the players. But that's if I could go to Georgia, that's where I'd go.
That would be awesome. That'd be awesome. Well, Coach, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. Hopefully, we'll see a couple of your guys down in Gatlinburg in December. And later on this season, when we catch up with y'all, of course, we put out the broadcast schedule later on. I don't know that we get to catch up with – I don't think we get to catch up with you guys during the regular season, but maybe during the postseason we can catch up with you guys and get some of your guys on the broadcast. But I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me, Coach.
Yes, sir. And I'll be in Gatlinburg. I've already got my plans made, so I'll be there regardless.
There you go.
I'll
That
catch up with you.
works. That works. Everybody, that's Coach Daniel Smith from the East Central Homeschool Patriots out of, I think they're built out of Pinson, Alabama. And so good conversation there. Great to talk to him. And I mentioned there before, Coach Mike Long had been at East Central for forever. Then during the offseason made the change to Coach Daniel Smith. And, looks to be like a good move. Hopefully he can help continue to grow that program. It's one that started as had football way back in the day, started as a JV program, and kind of, switched over to varsity, I believe, in 2020, 2021. So really tough time to make that move to varsity, but just started growing, and, the sky's the limit for them. Super tough conference they play in, though, the ACSC. Switching gears a little bit, wanted to talk about the Jamboree at CCS. And before I go any further, you'll notice I brought the Stephen A. Shannon shirt back out because it's now time to give opinions now that the season is starting. And so I have been billed Stephen A. Shannon by several people. So I'm going to roll with it. I'm going to do it. So Friday night, the Jamboree at Christian Community. Well, you had the one at FCA. I did have a guy there, and what he mentioned – he had a couple guys that stood out to him. Of course, that Jamboree had Franklin Christian Academy, Franklin Classical School, Freedom Cowboys, and Providence Christian. So a couple guys that stood out to him. Of course, Isaiah Kimbrough is back at FCA after being gone for a year. I believe he played at Creekwood, but he is back at Franklin Christian. And my guy there said he was dominant, especially on the defensive side of the ball. He's going to be a force for the Falcons this year, and I've got the chance to watch him live a couple times in the past. Absolutely love what the young man does, and I think it'll be good to see what he does this upcoming season. For Providence, he said really the wide receiver core. And they had, is what jumped out to him. They've improved so much, and I mentioned that. I think they've improved a ton. He said the tier was kind of FCA and then Freedom Providence and then Classical, but a very close. It wasn't like a Providence Freedom and then Classical down here. Like it was very, very close. And that's to be expected, and that's what I picked up from seeing them at the Jamboree at CCS last night, but I'll get to that in a second. And then the other guy that really stood out for him, or two guys, I mentioned Tanner Clark before from Franklin Classical, being the quarterback last year, moving in and kind of taking that starting role. He played well last night, I thought, and he jumped out to him Friday night at the FCA Jamboree. And then Oliver Johnson from Freedom Cowboys, I believe that's who it was, and he said he jumped out to him as well. So some good action down there. And then on Friday night at Christian Community, they hosted their Jamboree, and it was them. You know what? I don't want to misquote it. So let me pull up who was in that Jamboree. You say, oh, it's only Friday night. I've slept since then, okay? It was CCS, Tennessee Heat, Lighthouse Christian, Grace Baptist, and Lancaster. So a couple guys that stood out for me. I really, really liked the play of number 50, Jude King from Lighthouse Christian. A lot of times and some people mentioned it. A lot of times he went from like a 2-point stance, but he's on that weak side, and he's so dominant in terms of getting to the quarterback. Quarterbacks are going to have to get the ball out quick. They're going to have to focus on blocking him. As a senior, he brings a lot to the table. Or he might not even be a senior. Hold on, let me double check that because I might be wrong on that, but I do know that he was absolutely bringing it the other night. Several times, like I said, a lot of teams just trying to dump the ball, get the ball out. You gotta save your quarterback's life, especially if you like your quarterback. If you don't, let him take the shot. I'm just kidding. But I was very impressed with his play the other night. He is a awkward radio silence. He is a sophomore. Correction, he is a sophomore. So, um, great showing from him. And they did get a new head coach, Coach Jeremy Hayes. Got to meet him last night, talked to him a little bit. I've talked to him a little bit today. We'll get him on the show at some point down the road. But I was very impressed with Lighthouse Christian. They're going to struggle a little bit. I do think they are, but I think they'll get it figured out. And you could see them doing that over the Friday and Friday night and last night at the Jamboree, is figuring out some pieces. Where's the best place to going to be to put some people? Some of the places, some of the positions, they're set. They know where they want the guy, and they're going to roll with it. And some of it, they're kind of moving it around, figuring out some pieces, like I said. And of course, a Jamboree, you don't want to take too much from it in terms of team holes. You had teams last night that were sitting guys and not playing guys. And whether it's injury, whether it's, hey, this guy's a little iffy, so we're going to be safe. We're going to give some of the younger guys time to work. That's what a Jamboree is about. It's about just experience, playing time. Some of these teams, it's banging hats for the first time in a season, or the second or third time, or maybe the first time against someone that's not your teammate. And that's a whole new environment. That's a whole new experience, because when you're banging hats with your teammates, in the back of your mind, there's something that says, hey, ease up on this guy just a little bit. This is my teammate. I don't want to hurt him. But when you bang hats with somebody across the field that you've never met, or maybe that guy or that team, and you have no problem banging hats, that's where you go, hey, you know what? This is going to be full contact. It's going to absolutely it's going to get real. And it'll get real for some of these guys. And it got real last night and Saturday night. Also on Friday night, one of the other guys for me that showed up, of course, Grace Baptist was there. Being a big guy, I pay attention to the line a lot. Jude King from Lighthouse, one of their linemen. Another lineman that I was impressed with was Bo Swanson. We saw him last year as a junior. And whatever your opinion of it is, I don't care. I don't. It's my show, but I shouldn't be like that. But anyways, I love the type of guy that Bo Swanson is. I love how fiery he is on the field. I love his work ethic. I love watching him as a player. And in my opinion, I think every team needs a player like that. Every team needs that guy that maybe he is a little chippy. Okay, you can work with that, but you can't teach that level of fire and that level of sticking up for your teammates and effort every single down when he's on when that player's on the field. You can't teach that. You can try to gear it back a little bit, but you can't. And it's not just him going out there and being for lack of a better term, a hockey goon. He's a skilled player. He's going to make an impact, especially as a senior this year. I was very impressed with him. And then also on Friday night, the Tennessee Heat. I mean, how can you not pick out number 7, Aiden Luchtfeld? I know I mentioned him a lot last year. He showed up last year as a junior, senior year this year. He's been a solid player since his 8th grade year, kind of like the next guy I'm going to talk about in a second. But he's been a solid player. He was showing up 8th grade. I believe freshman year was when he got hurt. He broke his collarbone. And he's just continued to grow and get better. And, last night, standing there with coaches, watching the Heat play these teams, it was a constant, number 7. And, again, I mentioned these players, and that's not to downplay anybody else. I'm impressed with the team. I'm enjoying football. Just somebody that popped out to my eye, just me personally. Hey, that guy had a really good night. Maybe there's different opinions. Maybe one coach or one person will say, well, I like seeing this guy play. Cool. I agree. He's a great guy. I'm going to give him a shout out. But another guy, and I said I'd mention him, it's the guy that committed to Swanee before his senior year. And I know some of that has to do with academics, but some of it is athletics. He did start as an 8th grader, and he's been starting ever since. And that's Deuce Bragg from Lancaster. The dude can sling the ball, just where he can put the ball where he needs to. He can scramble if he needs to. I mean, he is a quarterback. He is he's not a running back converted to a quarterback. He's a quarterback. And he's had the luxury and experience of, his dad being the coach and getting to work with him, and then, being able to develop as a quarterback. He's been able to do that, and it's paid off. There's guys at times, or some guys have that luxury and just don't pan out. He's not one of them at all in any way, shape, or form. And you already know that there's going to be just a little bit of fire in him. Going to that, they went to that conference championship game last year and didn't get it done. They didn't win. And, of course, they played a great Grace Baptist team, taking nothing away from Grace Baptist. But you already know that fire is going to be in him, and he's going to want that win. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do this year. And then also for Christian Community, number 10, Caden Poulin, another guy. He's a quarterback, started as a freshman last year, and just absolutely tore it up. I thought he did a great job. As a young quarterback, there's going to be areas that you're going to have to work on, but I think he's got a great coaching staff to help him work on that. Having former CCS quarterback Nathaniel Rowley there to help him kind of walk him through, and the excitement on his face when he'd make that throw and he'd get something and make something happen. You want that excitement. Of course, everybody says, "Oh, act like you've been there before." Some of these guys never been there before. You got to give them a little grace. You got to work with them a little bit. And then on Saturday night, Sacred Heart ended up not being able to make it. Had some equipment issues, so had to shift the schedule around a little bit. But a couple guys I saw last night for Zion Christian. First off, I want to give a shout out to Zion Christian, the football team, those young men, because with everything that administration has put them through and everything they've been through, there was 12 young men out there last night. Those 12 young men, they laid it out there. There was no holding back. They went for it. Kudos to them. Kudos to Coach Beathard for being able to get them, get them ready and get them on the field for some competition. I love seeing number 5, Jaron Kaiser, play. And I don't even know if I'm saying his name right, but I love watching him play. He is a quarterback that, I think he plays a little. He's going to have to play a little defense with the numbers they've got. But I was very impressed with how he led the team and how he got them ready. In terms of at the line of scrimmage and the plays he was able to make. He's somebody that jumped out to me, and of course started last year, played football. Everybody, if you haven't, you need to go read the story about him playing football. Big baseball guy got hurt, came out to play football, and like I said, a huge shout out to all these guys for coming in and playing football after the kind of off season they've had. It'd be very easy to go, you know what, we don't really know what's going to happen this year, we're out. They didn't do that, so massive kudos to them. There's a guy for Franklin Classical, number 22, Fletcher Lancaster. Well, I'll get to him in a second. South Haven Christian, number 7, Jake Atkinson. I really enjoyed watching him play. There were a couple other guys, Gabriel Ding, Mandy Ding's younger brother, Micah Hendricks, Didi Poha, of course, the Connection and Blaine Keller did a great preview article on them Friday. We shared it. Great job on the article. Loved reading it. I love that, at this point, and it's, there's pockets of it wherever schools are, maybe not a metro area, but, especially with Robertson County, it's been that way the last couple of years. Schools have been able to get coverage. CCS and South Haven have been able to get coverage from these media outlets and from these papers and these reporters. And I love that it's getting to that point. That was one of the goals is, hey, let's get some more attention on these young men. And now that they're getting it, it's so awesome. I love seeing it. I love reading those articles. I love sharing it. So big shout out to those reporters and the papers and the media outlets that are covering that. But Jake Atkinson, I enjoyed watching him play. Very tough. Of course, his older brother was there a couple years ago, and just a great player. Really looking forward to seeing what he can do this year. And then, last but not least, Want to talk about Fletcher Lancaster. Mentioned him a second ago. Number 22 for Franklin Classical. He jumped out to several people last night that I was watching. Several people on Friday night that I've talked to that were at the FCA Jamboree. Um, Fletcher actually has an interesting story, and I relate with it a lot. Um, so Franklin Classical is a member of the SEC, Southeastern Extreme Conference, and one of SEEK's on the guidelines, one of the rules is that one of the guidelines is it doesn't matter where a player comes from school wise. What matters is age and grade eligibility. If they are within the grade and they're not trying to be fifth year seniors, and if they do not turn 19 before August 1st, it's fair game. Which August 1st is the TSSAA deadline. But he's a young man that, he's been at a school that doesn't have football, Franklin Road Christian in Murfreesboro, doesn't have football. He's been there for years. He's part of a great basketball team last year. I think they won their conference championship. The Minutemen did. But, going into his senior year, he wanted to play football. He wanted that opportunity. And they were trying to figure out what would happen, how they could make that work. And it just so worked out that he was able to play for Franklin Classical because of these rules. I can relate with that. As a senior, I didn't get to play football my whole time through school. And then as a senior, got a chance to play for Christian Community. And I didn't start, and I didn't have the level of success that Fletcher did this past weekend and have the bright flashes that he did. I was a second-string bench warmer. But it meant a lot to me as a senior that didn't get to play football his whole time in school. Get to that senior and be able to play ball. And that's what Seek is all about. And I've tried to figure out a way to say this and announce it, and I was going to hold off on it. But for those of y'all that have not put the dots together, I am the commissioner of the SEC. I didn't want to say anything beforehand because of the perception, I guess, that there'd be a conflict of interest. So 8-Man Extreme is just going to cover Seek and, just going to focus on hyping them up. No, not at all. 8-Man Extreme is about covering 8-man football, and you can see it this year. We're trying to expand and grow. We're doing 18 games in 7 different states. There's some games I'm really excited about, teams that we've never covered before. And that's not a coincidence that's going on. It was time to grow with 8-Man Extreme. It was time to go beyond Tennessee and Alabama, and really, schools all over the place are asking us, when are you coming? And that's not a brag, but that's saying the 8-man football, the niche of 8-man football, high school football, is so undercovered that, we have an awesome opportunity with 8-Man Extreme to give those young men coverage and, give them some recognition. But at the same time with Seek, there was a gap in specifically Tennessee 8-man football and Alabama a little bit. But it's programs and schools that, they want to help as many young men be able to play football as possible. And again, this is not downplaying any conference, any school, any team. This is a situation of something needs to happen. There needs to be a change. There needs to be an alternative. And that's all it is. There's no competition. It's an alternative. If your school does, if a certain set, of rules and everything don't match up with the goal of your school and your team, check Seek out. It's an awesome opportunity. Again, I mentioned part of the guidelines is age and grade eligibility. That's what matters. If a young man is within those, and you can read the guidelines on social media. And again, that's if you didn't put together the whole extreme in the conference name. But it was an awesome opportunity to be able to give these young men like Fletcher the chance to play football. And it goes back to football being about the kids. Yes, there's going to be adults involved. They've got a coach. They've got to be athletic directors and administrators and principals and headmasters. There's got to be adults involved. But it's about those young men. It's about those kids. And I was told a while back by a board member, it's not about the kids the whole time. and I disagree with that. I don't think that a young man like Fletcher, and I don't want to make him the poster boy of this is why we did Seek, but he's an example of why I myself and the people in Seek, the coaches in Seek, the representatives in Seek, we don't believe that any young man should have to compromise, and his parents should have to compromise where they want that young man to get an education and also be able to play athletics. There's no reason that young man, because, Franklin Road Christian has not had football in forever. I don't think they've ever had football, and I don't see them starting football. I mean, maybe that young man and his parents like the education that school's giving him, but they don't have that opportunity. So why should that young man be robbed of that opportunity when that school's not going to sign up to play football? They're not going to sign up for a co-op. Why should that young man not get the opportunity to play football? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm putting out there. Sacred Heart for years. I've never been opposed to giving players the opportunity to play. Now, if the rules say, "Hey, here's the rules," if that's what the rules are, okay, you got to follow the rules. I get that. So, either change the rules, have a new set of rules, and it's not a rebel thing. It's not a we packed our bags and started a new conference. That's not it at all. It was, hey, that works for you guys, and that's how it is in life. Some things work for some people, some things don't work for others. You make the best of it, and you do what's right for these coaches and these representatives that are in Seek. They've decided to do what's best for their program and for the young men in that program and other young men. Again, not a knock on any conference, any team, nothing. But it's a perfect opportunity to give as many young men the chance to play football as possible, and keep football alive at these schools, because we've seen schools drop football. We've seen schools, lose football, and then a couple years down the road, now the school's closed. It's a terrible thing to see, and not everybody can co-op. Not everybody can go through the red tape of trying to co-op. That works for some schools. TSSAA requires co-ops. TSIAA requires co-ops. It doesn't work for some schools. Some schools only have one or two guys that want to play football, but the school does not want to put out the money for that. But here's the awesome thing about Seek, is you pull in one or two young men from such and Franklin Road Christian that doesn't have football, or whatever school that doesn't have football, and you get them playing for a team, and then they go back to their school and they're walking the halls proudly representing the team they play for, and it creates excitement in the school. Hey, we've got a guy on this football team. Let's go support him. And it not only helps the team that kid is playing for, but the school that kid comes from. It creates excitement for football in that school. And now you've got a bunch of young men. They'll go, hey, if this guy can do it, why can't we have football here? If they can do it over there, why can't we have football here? And now you've got another school that's looking at adding football and giving more young men the chance to play. That's what this is all about. That's it, bar none. It's such an awesome opportunity and an honor to been asked to help start this. As commissioner, I don't make any decisions. And again, on the broadcast, we're going to refer to Seek as a separate conference. It's not going to be, oh yeah, we at Seek. No, we're going to cover Seek as a conference. There's got to be a separation, and there will be a separation. But as commissioner, I don't make decisions. The coaches and athletic directors that are the representatives for their school, they make the decisions. They make they make all the calls. I present them with stuff, with information, with decisions, with opportunities. They make the decisions. It's how it should be. It's how it was back in the day. You had representatives from each school. Somebody would bring something forward. You vote on it. You discuss it. You talk about it. And then you decide whether or not you want to move on with it. That's how it should be. The power should not be with one person or two or three people. It should be a collective. If you're a school joining a conference, your voice should matter in that conference. That's how it should be. So, it's an awesome opportunity. It really is. And like I said, I didn't know how to approach it, how to talk about it, how to bring it up. Kind of wanted to not bring it up and maybe let sleeping dogs lie, but let's go ahead and get it out in the open. Let's go ahead and say something about it. That's how it is. So there's that. And again, like I said on the show, it's a separate conference. It's SEEK. We'll talk about those teams. We'll talk about the games. We'll talk about the conference. There's got to be a separation, and there will be. So that being said, I do want to switch gears a little bit. And I did mention at 5 o'clock we would bring in Coach Bob Atteka from Grace Baptist, and I'll get him queued up here in a second. Um, really excited about seeing them in the Jamboree. I thought they had an awesome Jamboree, and they got their first game coming up on Friday night. So we'll get him on the phone. You'll hear the ring. That's what happens when you fly solo. You get the full experience, the full phone call experience. I want to welcome on Coach
Hello.
Bob. Hey, I want to welcome on Coach Bob Atteka from Grace Baptist Academy down in Chattanooga. Coach, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me.
Yeah, no problem.
Coach,
Thanks for calling.
I thought you guys had an awesome showing at the Jamboree. You had several young men step up, and want to give you a chance to promote some of those young men that, of course, you guys lost quite a bit from last year. But you've had young men step up, and we saw some of them on Friday night. So I want to give you a chance to talk about some of those young men.
Well, we have Bo Swanson who played both sides of the ball last year, and he returned, and he's doing a great job for us.
For sure, yeah. I was impressed. I was impressed with him.
Yeah, and then Thompson, who was our center last year, is now our starting quarterback,
Okay.
and I think he did a really good job as well.
Yeah, for sure.
And then we've had a lot of young kids that just came out. Cooper Canette's younger brother, Carson, played corner for us, and he did a great job. And you had a couple freshmen out there that they did a good job as well. So I don't know. I could name all of. I don't want to leave anybody out.
I feel you. I feel you. Coming from the team that you guys had last year, where you went undefeated, you won conference championship, went to nationals, didn't quite go your way, but you had a stacked team, and then you come into this year where you've lost some of those guys. How do you what do you tell your guys going into this year where you don't have the same roster as last year, but you guys you know what your guys are capable of?
Yeah, we lost almost all starters except for one on each side of the ball. So it's almost a whole new team, and we just want to treat it that way. That these guys got to make their own identity, and we think they can, and we're just gonna work hard every day to try to get there.
I'll tell you what's awesome for me, Coach, is seeing how many guys you had out there on the sidelines. And you mentioned it being a whole new team, but with as many guys as you lost last year, you would, if making the switch and what you guys were able to do last year, if it had not had a positive impact on your school and your football program, it would seem like your numbers would be down. But that's not the case. How much of a positive impact has it had on the school and on the program, what you guys were able to do last year?
Well, moving 8 man for our school community, it won, and that's the question. State championship in Tiddlywinks, I think people are going to be excited. But just have them compete every night. I think that our other kids in the school saw that, and they wanted to be part of it.
Yeah, and I would think that maybe kids from have you been able to pull kids from maybe other sports that the school has and get them out for football?
Yeah, we got a couple kids, older kids, some of the seniors that we have come out that hadn't played before, and they're going to be good players for us, and they're really, kind of let us grow up a little faster than we would have been.
Yeah, for sure. Going into this year, and you guys having the kind of season you did last year, when you look at the teams on your schedule this year, again, every game's important, but is there anybody that you look at and you go, man, I'm really excited to, other than South Haven this upcoming Friday night, because you guys have never played them, is there anybody that you're really excited about playing this year? Because you guys have some cool games on your schedule.
Well, we really enjoyed playing the Tennessee School for the Deaf last year, and Alabama School for the Deaf called us and asked if we'd be willing to play them, and the way that the game went last year with Tennessee, we were very welcoming to do that. So those two games, I think, we really enjoy being a part of.
Yeah, for sure, and it's awesome to see that you guys are able to get more opponents. You got Tri Cities as well. You guys are able to get more schools that that are out that way. You guys don't have to drive all the way to Nashville to get a game, which it looked like it was going to be that way. Up until this past offseason, really, kind of last season. It's really cool to see the growth of it. Little by little, but to see the growth of it in East Tennessee, that it makes travel easier for you guys and Tennessee School for the Deaf and Tri Cities.
Yeah, it really does. The Tri City was a good, with Coach Boskin, who was here at Boyd Buchanan the last 2 years. I kind of have a relationship with him, and he's a great guy. And he reached out to me when he took that job and said, "Hey, this is what I'm thinking. Tell me more about it." And I didn't have anything but praise for the 8-man groups.
For sure, and I think it's great that coming from an environment like he did, moving up to Tri Cities, and he looked at all the options, and it was cool to be able to see that he was able to experience the 8-man game there in Chattanooga, and be able to see it and know that that was an option. I think it's a great option. Are there any schools that in that area that you've heard of maybe in the last offseason that have seen what you guys have done and said, hey, here this would be a good opportunity?
No, not in the Chattanooga area. I think that it's still there's a little bit of taboo, with not being an 11-man team, feeling like you're a little bit more inferior, which I think is wrong.
For sure.
But I thought that way 2 years ago too. So all fairness to them.
Right. Now, you guys during the off season, you guys got to do a scrimmage with Unity Christian out of Rome, Georgia. Um, Tell me how that came about, and talk about that experience a little bit.
Well, Gertie called me last year, asked me if we would going to do something in the spring, and we would work it out. And we went down there and basically just had a practice with them. And then we turned around this fall last Tuesday, and they came down to us. So that was a great opportunity to reach out to another man team that we didn't know anything about, and be able to have some, work with them.
Yeah, for sure. Now later on this season, about midway, and we'll be at that game. You guys go to Lighthouse Christian, and I would assume that it's a somewhat of a special game because someone you used to work with is the head coach now at Lighthouse Christian. What's kind of the history with you and Coach Hayes?
Well, when I was at Austin, he as a offensive coordinator, he just walked in the door one day and wanted to be a part of football. He was young. He was in college, I think, at the time, and we invited him in. And I told him, he could do whatever he, hang out as much as he wanted and ask as much questions as he wanted. And he did that, and we did that for a year, and I never heard much from him after that until last Friday night when I saw him.
That's awesome. That's all. Was it a little bit of a reunion moment?
Uh, well, anytime that you get to see guys that you worked with before or players, it's always a joy to find out what they've done and where they've been.
Now, of course, going back to last year, the national tournament, it didn't end great, and we're not going to go there. But in terms of and Cooper wasn't able to play, and so that kind of hurt the situation a little bit. But in terms of the environment and getting to play, getting another crack at Evangel, which you guys knocked them off earlier in the season. But getting a crack at Evangel again, and just getting the experience of going to Panama City, that you guys had talked about going down, and you got to do it. What was kind of the feedback from your guys in terms of just the experience as a whole?
Well, I know our kids mentioned it, right around graduation and some other things, that it was almost surreal, the crowd that we were able to bring down to Florida
Oh, it was awesome.
and the support that they had, for that first game against Evangel, and how it was kind of electric for them.
For sure, yeah, and it was awesome to see. Being a little biased as a Tennessee boy, it was cool to see a Tennessee team go down there and knock them off, because I had been down there 2 previous seasons, done a game where a Tennessee team went down there and it didn't go well. So it's kind of cool to see, and it was a good game too. It wasn't a terrible game, but with you guys rebuilding your school and your stadium, your field, are there any updates on that? In terms of when you guys might be able to get in there, or are you in the same boat as I am?
Well, our turf is, completely finished, and we actually have a brand new turf, football, and a baseball and a softball field that are all completed. But it's the infrastructure around it that's still not finished, and we have to get that done. And then, of course, it's on a construction site, so the city of Chattanooga has to approve being it off and using that part of the facility while the building is continuing to get built. So, working with the city sometimes can be difficult in those processes. So it's taking a
Right.
little longer than we anticipated. We probably won't get down there this fall, but maybe in late October, I hope. But if not, we know that our spring sports for sure should be there.
For sure, that's awesome. Well, and of course, you guys have a great option there with Hunter Middle School. They were awesome with you guys last season. We enjoyed coming down doing games with there, and it's a great setup. Nothing wrong with it. It didn't seem like it. You guys, you guys were hesitant when you found out you couldn't play it on your on campus. It didn't seem like you guys were bummed about having to go back to Hunter Middle. It seems like a great environment.
It is a good environment, and we really thank Hunter Middle School for opening their arms to us. But we're kind of itching to get on our own campus.
Oh, for sure. I bet I'm itching to do a game there. I've heard great things about it and excited about it. One last question, Coach. Again, appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. You've had a couple guys that graduated from last year that actually went on to sign some scholarships or signed to play at the next level. How awesome is that? Even if it wasn't football, how awesome was that to see guys that I'm sure you've seen it years over and over again, but to know that from that group you were able to have young men go on and play at the next level. How special was that?
Yeah, I think it's always good if that's what their dream is and that's what they want to do to be able to reach that. I think is fantastic. We not only did it in football this year, but we had a number of students at our school that were able to. My own daughter who plays volleyball is going to play NCAA volleyball down at Belhaven University. We're going to drop her off next week, so
That's awesome.
we're just excited for all of them.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, like I said, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. We're excited about being down there Friday night. You guys, South Haven, first time matchup, kick the season off. Looking forward to having a great time, Coach. And you guys are always hospitable and gracious, and we really appreciate you guys. And we're looking forward to seeing you Friday night.
All right, thanks for calling.
Yes, sir. That's Coach Bob Atteka from Grace Baptist down in Chattanooga. And like I said, I thought he looked great during the Jamboree. I thought he had guys show up. He mentioned Bo. He mentioned Wesley. And, just across the board, guys stepping up. It was great to see their numbers up. Again, good to see it growing. So now I want to talk about the upcoming games this week. It's not a huge slate, and of course, some of that being because a lot of these states start later than Tennessee and Alabama, actually. You mentioned Coach Daniel Smith mentioned they're playing a game this week, and then they're off, and they'll start again. And most of these 8-man schools, I know Georgia, Mississippi, North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, a lot of them start near the end of August, and Tennessee and Alabama just get started real early, and they always have. But a couple of games coming up. But before I get to that, the games coming up this week, want to talk about the broadcast schedule a little bit. We put that out on Friday morning rather, and first time ever that we've locked in these games and just decided, hey, we're going to tell everybody beforehand where we're going. I'm excited about a lot of these games. It's going to be a brutal travel schedule. I think we've got 7 doubleheaders. We're doing a game in South Carolina, in Arkansas, in Mississippi, in Georgia, in Florida, and then a whole bunch of games in Tennessee and a whole bunch of games in Alabama. Of course, this upcoming weekend, South Haven and Grace Baptist. First time matchup on Friday night in Chattanooga. It's going to be a great game. I think, especially after watching both teams in the Jamboree. Of course, Grace played Friday night. South Haven played Saturday night. I think it'll be a great matchup, and I'm excited to see it. And then on Saturday, you've got Lighthouse Homeschool and Tennessee Heat. second time matchup. Of course, Heat went down to Lighthouse last year, and I'm excited to see that game. And then going down through the schedule, you've got, of course, an old rivalry, CCS and Franklin Classical. Next Friday, not this Friday night, next Friday night, and then the next day, Tennessee Heat at Tri-Cities. Tri-Cities' first game as a school. The way they're approaching it is there was a Tri-Cities Christian. This is the new Tri-Cities Christian. So starting from scratch, starting over. And then Sacred Heart Zion, of course, Tennessee Heat and Tri-Cities, and then Zion and Sacred Heart seek conference games. Actually, Tennessee Heat, Tri-Cities is divisional, and Sacred Heart Zion is divisional as well. Split up into divisions. Tennessee Heat, Tri-Cities, and Franklin Classical are in a division. And then Sacred Heart, Zion, and Freedom are in a division. So the North and South, and they'll play each other in a cross-divisional, and then a cross-divisional game as well that'll work as a tiebreaker. Ezekiel and Freedom, long history with those teams. Excited to see that one. Cary Christian out of North Carolina, they're defending the defending NCISAA Big 8 champion, or Colonial Carolina champions rather. They're taking on Greenville Hurricanes, which they are technically still the defending SIFA champs, even though they're not in the conference. So I don't really know how that works, but doing their own thing this year. Mentioned Grace and Lighthouse. That's going to be a great matchup. You love to see the whole dynamic between two coaches that knew each other and they've interacted, and two schools that are I think on the rise. I think even though Grace had the year they had last year, and then the way their roster looks now, I think they're still on the rise. And then the next day on the Saturday we go out to Little Rock, Arkansas. Southwest Christian versus Cornerstone Spartans out of Missouri. Really, really excited to see that game. Heartland Christian Athletic Association conference game. That one will be good. Hillcrest Christian at Russell Christian. Hillcrest is independent this year in 8-man. They've been 11. They switched to 8, playing independently this year. Then Russell Christian, one of the teams that they were in CFA for football and AISA and all the other sports. AISA brought in 8-man. Russell decided the best way to go for their school was to go to the CFA for everything. Of course, they are the defending champs for CFA. And then the next day, Alabama School for the Deaf and Tennessee School for the Deaf. The Silent Warriors and the Vikings. That'll be a great game to catch. And really excited about getting back out to Knoxville and to the TSD campus. Beautiful campus. Love going out there. Tuscaloosa Christian, Tabernacle Christian. Big rivalry game in Alabama in the CFA. These teams have gone at each other. Last year they had a barn burner of a game. Of course, we talked to Coach Clint Chase last week, but just a barn burner of a game. And then you've got Cornerstone Christian and Southern Prep. It's an AISA conference matchup. Cornerstone Christian, one of those teams that just came to 8-man from 11-man. They've struggled for the last couple of years. Now they're taking on Southern Prep in conference play. Southern Prep, they've kind of done a split schedule. I think this year they've got a 11-man game to kick off the season and then right into 8-man. And then the next week, really cool situation. Evangel Christian out of Alabaster. They're taking on City of Life Christian out of Orlando, and they're meeting in Panama City Beach, Florida. Really cool setup for that game, and excited to get a chance to go down there. And then the next day, yes, it's crazy. We're going to be in Panama City, Florida on Friday night, and then we're going to be back in Springfield, Tennessee on Saturday night. Battle of 76, Christian Community, South Haven. They went at each other last night in the Jamboree. It was a great showing for both teams, great matchup. Excited to see this game later on in the season. And then you've got Evangel Christian out of Montgomery taking on North River Christian out of Tuscaloosa. I'd never been to North River before. A lot of these places never been before, never been to their field. So really excited to see that. And again, another AISA matchup. Got to see Evangel Christian last year in the CFA championship game against Russell. They're one of the teams that they were AISA. They thought about going to 11-man. They were going to struggle a little bit, I think. And then AISA introduced 8-man, and they said, hey, perfect, let's go. Let's do this. And North River has been independent in 8-man for a while. All their other sports were AISA, and then they brought in 8-man, and North River said, all right, cool, we're in a conference. The next week, we are in Alabaster, Alabama, Carolina Wildcats making the trip from South Carolina to Alabama to take on the Lightning. So, really cool matchup. Got to see the Wildcats go to Freedom last year, and I think they're doing it again this year. But it's always really neat to see these interstate games and the way that these teams match up. And then to wrap up the regular season, we'll be in Rome, Georgia. We've got Horizon Christian taking on Unity Christian. Got the chance to interact with some Unity Christian folks over the last couple seasons, especially in Gatlinburg. Always been a great interaction, great experience, and so really excited to see them and get to see some Georgia 8-man football. But I think it'll be really, really fun. It'll be a fun year. Like I said, travel is going to be a beast. It's going to be wild, but it's going to be so rewarding. I think to get to see all these different young men and the teams and the venues, the stadiums. There's going to be some really nice stadiums. There are going to be some times where it might be a little rough, but every coach I've talked to that we're going to their field, and I've said, hey, here's what we need to work with. Every single one of them has been so gracious and has really worked with us and trying to make this happen. And it's been in the works for a while. A lot of these games, just making sure that the everything I's are dotted and T's are crossed, to make sure everything's squared away. It's going to be a fun season, I think, in terms of which games we're going to. So that being said, I'm really, really excited about that. That's not the last broadcast schedule thing we've got. There'll be some cool stuff for the individual games that we're working on, and hopefully it comes through. Hopefully it works out and gets to happen. But one other thing I did want to get to before we talk about the games that are coming up this upcoming weekend. Mentioned it during the interview with Coach Daniel Smith. The ACSC is doing a media day for the first time ever for that conference, and it's the first time for a lot of conferences. I don't remember seeing a conference that did it, and I think it's a really, really cool thing that they're doing. Of course, it'll be broadcast. It'll be streamed live on the Evangel Christian School Athletics YouTube channel, so you can go over there, subscribe. If you look, 8-Man Extreme, and myself personally, my personal YouTube, subscribed, the notification bell's on, excited to get to watch it. 10 o'clock Tuesday morning, so that'll be really cool. Of course, the 5 teams in that conference, East Central Homeschool, Evangel, Ezekiel, Lighthouse Homeschool, and Southern Christian Homeschool Patriots will all be involved in that. All those head coaches will be involved in that. So I think that'll be a really cool environment and a great, just a great way to kick off the season. I think I hope more conferences decide to do it. It's really, really, it's cool to see that it's not so much the outside coverage that these schools are looking for. They're saying, hey, we're going to generate some excitement, some coverage in and of ourselves. I think that's really awesome. I love to see it. I'll be watching on Tuesday, be watching the media days. So talking about the games coming up this weekend, we've mentioned them here or there. We've gone in and out. But I want to start on Friday night. Of course, East Central and Evangel, mentioned it during the interview, has not gone East Central's way the last 2 years. And pulling up the game history, in 2020 it was 69-6, and in last year it was 41-13. So big Evangel wins. I'm not going to predict games this year. I don't think I want to go that way. Just going to talk about them, break them down a little bit. Everybody knows what Evangel has. We just talked to Coach Daniel Smith from East Central, and I'm excited to see what the result of this game is. Of course, it's a tough environment going to Evangel. That's a whole new world going to Evangel. So we'll see how those young men, the Patriots, can handle it. Of course, mentioned South Haven Christian at Grace Baptist on Friday night, first time matchup. Both these teams, Grace Baptist having a phenomenal year last season. South Haven started off hot and then kind of sputtered down the stretch, got into the playoffs, lost in the playoffs. They lost some key players from last year, but have had a lot of young men step up. And so I'm excited for us to get to broadcast this game, get to see it. Of course, not many games going on Friday night, so hopefully a lot of you guys are able to watch and catch the game. I think it'll be a good one. And then another game happening, Lancaster Christian at Lighthouse Christian, conference game. And the history between this game, it's really gone Lancaster's way. Let me get this game history pulled up. So Lancaster is 3-0 against Lighthouse Christian. Wins in 2018, 2019. They didn't play in 2020, and then 2021. They got to play a game. 2021, not very close, but closer than the others. Only about a 26-point difference. Of course, Lighthouse has been rebuilding for a couple years. I think they're on the upswing. And Lancaster, they've lost some guys from last year. There were some impressive guys the other night. And, of course, they've got their quarterback. But that's a game I'll be interested to see what the result of that game is. And then another game happening on Friday night, Franklin Christian Academy and Christian Community School in White House. It's a rivalry game for sure. Get this game history pulled up real quick. So Christian Community and Franklin Christian overall record sits at 4-7 or 7-4 for Christian Community. Although Franklin Christian has let's see, this is Franklin Christian's side of it. So they have lost the last 4 matchups against Christian Community, and of course they compete all the time. Middle school football, they've competed for a couple championships. Basketball, they're always competing. Baseball. So 2 schools that know each other very, very well. They have not played each other, though, since 2019. So 2017, they met twice, once in the playoffs. We were at that game. I actually remember calling that game, and it came down to a last-second play. 36-34 is a very close one. But other than that, some big wins for Christian Community. And then go further back, 2015, of course, they played for the championship. And FCA, that was the last time they beat Christian Community. But it was a win that meant something. All these games mean something, but there was a trophy on the line. But they played each other one other time in 2015, and then a couple times in 2014. And so all those were FCA wins. And then going back a little bit, 2011 Christian Community. I remember this game, 60-2 homecoming game. I got a lot of playing time in that game. I was very excited about that. But a couple big wins for Christian Community back when FCA was trying to grow and build the program a little bit. So, recently it's been going in Christian Community's favor, but everything I've heard about FCA is they've been doing really, really well. They did really well in that Jamboree Friday night, and a lot of culture changes over there in Franklin. So that's everything I've heard about it. And then the game will be on Saturday. Lighthouse Homeschool against the Tennessee Heat. This game was played one other time last season. Tennessee Heat made the trip down to Alabama to take on Lighthouse Homeschool, and the Warriors got the win, 47-13. So the Heat hosting Lighthouse, maybe looking to kick the season off with a really, really strong showing. And Lighthouse hoping to come up to Tennessee, first time ever being in Tennessee, playing a game up in the Volunteer State, up in this area. It's kind of like Ezekiel last year coming up to Tennessee Heat. They never played in the area. Of course, they got a big win, and Lighthouse looking for the same. Tennessee Heat building some rivalries with some of those Alabama teams. It's really, really cool. I love seeing it. But we'll be at that game on Saturday night. Great way to kick off the season. Doubleheader right off the bat. Just, jump straight into the season. Man, I'm so excited. So Friday night we did a practice run broadcast, kind of working with some equipment, working with producer Audrey and director Jack, making sure everybody was comfortable with how everything would go on the production side of everything. And got to film the game, got to see these teams play, and then last night got to just stand on the sidelines, talk to coaches, watch the games, watch the action. Probably the only time I'll be at a football game and not be broadcasting. So it was really nice to be able to watch it. Took my son, took my little guy, and just kind of soaked it in and enjoyed it. But I'm so excited the football's back, man. It's like a little piece of me was missing for so long, and that piece is back, and I'm enjoying it. I'm really, really excited about it, really hyped about it. But after about an hour and a half, I'm pretty sure y'all are tired of listening to me. I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate you listening, of course. If I can get this music queued up. This is Extreme Talk presented by Complete, specifically Complete Wealth Management, Complete Real Estate. Also brought to you by Brent Atkinson of Wycart Realty, the Realty Group, and by Fairlife Core Power Protein. Work hard, recover harder. I don't know why. I do know why the music's not playing. Here, let's turn this down, and let's do this. There we go. Extreme Talk presented by Complete. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll catch you Friday night in Chattanooga, Hunter Middle School, South Haven Christian, Grace Baptist. See ya!